Praise Kane, what's up? Coming along for the ride today. Day's going exactly the way I like it, perfectly. How about your day? How's it going? Day's going just the way I want it to go. Look at this, nice and smooth, ain't nothing in the way. Ain't no deer running across the road. The sky's blue. It's warm outside, even in Maine. It's a little bit of snow. I can't ask for a more peaceful day.
Waiting for love to enter your life, waiting for recognition, waiting for peace of mind. But I tell you, waiting is the antithesis of creation. In the realm of imagination, which is the realm of God for God, and your wonderful human imagination are one and the same, there is no waiting. There is only the eternal now. Let us examine the words of Scripture. For all Scripture is a psychological drama taking place in the depth of your own being. In the book of Revelation we read, "Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come into him and will sup with him and he with me." This door is not some physical entrance, but the door of your consciousness. Your miracle is knocking right now, asking for entrance into your world. Will you let it in? The great mistake that mankind makes is believing that miracles are external events that happen to us through some force outside ourselves. This is the great illusion. The truth, the absolute truth that I am giving you tonight is that miracles are not external happenings but internal assumptions. When you assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, when you live from the end as though your desire were already an accomplished fact, you are performing the greatest miracle. I recall a lady who came to me in utter despair. For 15 years she had been separated from her son. Legal battles, geographic distance, and family disputes had created what appeared to be an insurmountable barrier between them. She had tried everything the external world offered: lawyers, mediators, letters, phone calls, but to no avail. Then she discovered this principle. Instead of dwelling in the state of separation, which only perpetuated that reality, she began to sleep each night in the assumption that her son was back in her life. She would fall asleep feeling the joy of their reunion, hearing his voice, feeling his embrace. Within 3 weeks after 15 years of separation, her phone rang. It was her son calling from a nearby town, asking if he could come see her. The external bridge was built because the internal bridge had been established first in her imagination. This is how your miracle will come. Not by fighting against current circumstances, not by forcing external events, but by assuming in the depth of your consciousness that you already are what you desire to be. For consciousness is the only reality, and everything else is merely its shadow. Many of you have been taught to believe that your desires are too grand, that you must be practical, reasonable, and conform to the limitations of the world around you. This is the greatest lie ever perpetuated upon mankind. The truth is that your consciousness knows no limitations, and the miracle you seek is limited only by your capacity to imagine it as real. The Bible tells us all things are possible to him that believeth. But what does it mean to believe? It does not mean to intellectually accept something as true. True belief is the complete acceptance of your desire as an already existing fact. It is when your inner conversation and feeling states are in complete alignment with your wish fulfilled. When you truly believe, you cease trying to make things happen, because in your consciousness they have already happened. I want you to understand something fundamental about the nature of your miracle. The time interval between your assumption and its physical manifestation is merely a device of your three-dimensional world. In the fourth dimension of consciousness, where your imagination dwells, your miracle already exists in its completeness. The appearance of time is simply the movement of events across the screen of your three-dimensional world. So many of you are giving up just before your miracle manifests physically. You plant the seed in consciousness by assuming the feeling of your wish fulfilled. But then you dig it up repeatedly to see if it's growing. No farmer would expect a harvest by continually uprooting his seeds to check their progress. Similarly, you must allow your subsham to take root in the fertile soil of your consciousness without the interference. Let me share with you another principle that is crucial to the manifestation of your miracle. What you focus on expands. If you focus on the absence of your desire, on the lack, on the waiting, on the not having, then that state of consciousness will expand and perpetuate itself. But if you focus on the presence of your desire, on the feeling of having it now, that state will expand and externalize itself in your world. There is a story in the Bible of the woman with the issue of blood who touched the hem of Jesus' garment and was healed instantly. Jesus said to her, "Thy faith hath made thee whole." Now, who is this Jesus in the story? He is your own wonderful human imagination. And the woman's faith was not a passive hope that it was an active assumption that by touching the garment, by making contact with she was. Your miracle operates by the same principle. It requires your active assumption, your complete conviction that it is done. The world may present you with 1,000 reasons why your desire cannot be fulfilled. Circumstances may seem to contradict the possibility of your miracle. People may discourage you with their limited thinking, but I say to you with absolute authority, all external evidence is only the product of past assumptions. It has no power to prevent new assumptions from reshaping your world. Do not be discouraged by appearances. Appearances are shadows, while your consciousness is the substance. As Neville, I tell you that the secret to manifestation lies not in manipulating shadows, but in changing the substance from which shadows are cast. When you change your concept of self, when you assume a new state of consciousness, the shadows must conform. Now let us speak of persistence, for many of you are on the verge of giving up. You have tried to apply these principles, but you have not yet seen the physical evidence of your desires. Perhaps you have even concluded that these principles do not work for you. Let me tell you why this conclusion is false and why you must persist. The law of assumption is just that, a law. It is as consistent and unwavering as the law of gravity. It does not work sometimes and fail other times. It is always operating, whether you are conscious of it or not. If it is not yet manifested, it is not because the law has failed. It is because you have not yet fully assumed the consciousness of having your desire. There may still be contradictory.
If you're traveling to be surrounded by nature,
Contradictory assumptions operating beneath the surface of your awareness. Remember the words of Scripture, "Let patience have a perfect work, that ye may be perfect and entire, wanting nothing." Patience in this context does not mean waiting passively for something to happen. It means maintaining your assumption regardless of appearances, until the bridge of incidents has been built that leads to the feature and manifestation of your desire. There is a perfect time for the externalization of your desires, a divine timing that human intellect cannot calculate. This divine timing is determined not by some external clock, but by the complete saturation of your consciousness with the feeling of your wish fulfilled. When there is no longer any conflict in your mind, when you have completely accepted your desire as an accomplished fact, then the miracle must come forth. I have seen countless individuals who were on the brink of giving up, who had tried everything and were ready to abandon their dreams, only to discover that their miracle was just around the corner. Had they given up, they would have never witnessed the manifestation that was already in motion. Think of Elijah in the Bible, who prayed for rain during a devastating drought. After his prayer, he sent his servant to look toward the sea for any sign of rain. 6 times the servant returned saying there was nothing. But on the 7th time he reported seeing a small cloud the size of a man's hand rising from the sea. From that tiny cloud came a torrential downpour that ended the drought. Your miracle will begin as a small cloud on the horizon, a subtle shift in circumstances, an unexpected phone call, a chance meeting, a new idea. Do not despise these small beginnings, for they are the first physical evidence of the massive change that has already occurred in your consciousness. When Jesus stood before the tomb of Lazarus, who had been dead for 4 days, he did not pray for Lazarus to be resurrected. Instead, he said, "Father, I thank thee that thou hast heard me." He gave thanks before any physical evidence of the miracle was present. This is the secret thanksgiving in advance. When you give thanks for your miracle as though it has already happened, you are establishing in consciousness the very condition that will objectify itself in your world. Let us explore another dimension of this principle. Many of you believe that your miracle requires the cooperation of specific individuals or the arrangement of particular circumstances. You think, if only my boss would give me that promotion, or if only that person would love me, or if only the market would shift in my favor. But this is to misunderstand the nature of creation. Your consciousness does not depend on any external condition for its creative power. When you assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, the entire universe rearranges itself to make that assumption a reality. People, circumstances, events, all are merely instruments for the externalization of your assumptions. They have no power to initiate causes. They can only reflect the causes you have initiated in your own consciousness. This principle removes all sense of dependency and victimhood. You are not at the mercy of others' decisions or external conditions. You are the operant power in your life. And the entire objective world is the servant of your assumptions. I recall a gentleman who was told by medical authorities that he had an incurable condition that would progressively worsen. The experts gave him no hope. But rather than accepting this verdict, he began to assume the feeling of perfect health. Each night before sleep, he would construct a scene implying that he was completely well. He would imagine his doctor expressing amazement at his recovery. He persisted in this assumption despite all physical evidence to the contrary. Within 6 months, he returned to his doctor for tests, and to the doctor's astonishment, there was no trace of the condition. The doctor called it a medical miracle. But it was not a medical miracle, it was a miracle of consciousness. You see, the creative power does not reside in the doctor, the medicine, or any external agency. It resides in your consciousness. When you change your concept of self, you change your relationship to everything in your world, including your own body. Now I want to address a crucial aspect of manifestation that many overlook. Your miracle is not something separate from yourself. You are not trying to attract something from outside. You are awakening to the reality that everything you desire already exists within you in a state of potential. Manifestation is not attraction, it is expression. It is the outpicturing of what already exists within. Think of an acorn. Within that tiny seed exists the full potential of a mighty oak tree. The oak is not attracted to the acorn from outside. It unfolds from within as the inherent nature of the acorn expresses itself. Similarly, your miracle is the natural expression of the state of consciousness you have assumed. It is the oak tree emerging from the acorn of your assumption. This understanding transforms how you approach manifestation. Instead of trying to get something, you focus on being something. For what you are is what you will express, and what you express is what you will experience in your three-dimensional world. In the Bible we read, "Let this mind be in you which was also in Christ Jesus, who being in the form of God, thought it not robbery to be equal with God." This is not blasphemy, it is the statement of a psychological fact. Your imagination, Christ in you, is God in action. When you assume the mind of having what you desire, you are exercising the same creative power that created the universe. Your miracle is not coming, it exists now as a present reality in the imagination. And since imagination creates reality, the feeling state you assume today must objectify itself in your tomorrow. This is law, not luck or chance. Many of you have spent years affirming positive thoughts while maintaining a feeling state of lack. You have recited affirmations of abundance while feeling poor. You have declared health while feeling sick. You have professed love while feeling unloved. But I tell you, it is not what you affirm with your lips, but what you affirm in feeling that creates your reality. For feeling is the prayer, and prayer is feeling. What you feel you attract. What you imagine with feeling you become. Consider the story of Jacob and Esau. Jacob, whose name means supplanter, covered himself with the skins of goats to simulate the hairiness of his brother Esau. When his blind father Isaac felt him, he believed.
Do you know most businesses, the amount of times that they call people is 1 or 2 times maximum. It takes
to simulate the hairiness of his brother Esau. When his blind father Isaac felt him, he believed he was touching Esau and gave Jacob the blessing intended for the firstborn. This story is not about deception, but about the power of assumption. When you assume the feeling of being what you want to be, even though your reason and senses deny it, you receive the blessing, the manifestation of that state. Your miracle is already yours in the invisible reality of consciousness. The only distance between you and its physical manifestation is the distance between your present concept of self and the concept you would assume if your desire were already fulfilled. Close that gap in consciousness, and you close the gap in manifestation. Let me share with you a technique that has helped countless individuals bridge this gap. It is the technique of living from the end. Before you fall asleep each night, construct a scene in your imagination that would imply your miracle has already happened. Make this scene as vivid and as real as possible. Engage all your senses. What would you see? What would you hear? What would you feel? What would you smell or taste? How would others respond to you? Create this scene with such clarity that it feels more real than your bedroom. Then, enter fully into this scene. Don't observe it from a distance, be a participant in it. Feel the emotions you would feel if this were actually happening. Allow the joy, the gratitude, the peace, the excitement to course through your body. Fall asleep in this state, for the subconscious mind is most impressionable as you enter the sleep state. Do this night after night, and you will begin to notice subtle shifts in your waking reality. Opportunities will appear that were not there before. resources will become available. People will respond to you differently. These are the signs that your assumption is taking root and beginning to objectify itself in your world. But do not make the mistake of looking for your miracle exactly as you have imagined it. The bridge of incidents that leads to your desire may take unexpected forms. Trust the wisdom of your deeper mind to bring about your desire in ways that your intellect cannot conceive. Your role is to maintain the assumption of the end, not to dictate the means. Now let us confront the great enemy of manifestation, doubt. Doubt is not the opposite of faith, it is faith in the opposite. When you doubt, you are actually exercising faith in what you do not want. You are assuming the feeling of not having, and that assumption must objectify itself just as surely as the assumption of having. The antidote to doubt is not blind optimism, but a deeper understanding of the creative process. When doubt arises, do not fight it or deny it. Instead, recognize it as a signal that you have temporarily slipped back into the old state of consciousness. Then, gently but firmly return to your new assumption. Persist in the assumption that your miracle is already yours, and eventually that assumption will harden into fact. Remember the words of Jesus, "According to your faith be it unto you." Faith is not a sentiment, it is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. It is the feeling tone of already having what you desire. When you maintain this feeling despite all evidence to the contrary, you are exercising true faith, and your miracle must come. I want to address something that prevents many from fully applying these principles, the fear of disappointment. Some of you hold back from fully assuming your desires fulfilled because you fear the pain of disappointment if it doesn't materialize. You think you are protecting yourself, but in reality, you are guaranteeing the very disappointment you seek to avoid. For the law of assumption operates with mathematical precision. What you assume, you become. If you assume that your desire might not be fulfilled, that assumption itself creates the condition where it cannot be fulfilled. But if you assume with complete conviction that it is already fulfilled, nothing in this world can prevent its manifestation. The secret is to transfer your faith from the evidence of the senses to the evidence of imagination. When you can feel the reality of your imagined state with the same intensity that you now feel the reality of your physical state, your miracle is assured. Consider the parable of the talents. The servant who buried his talent in the ground did so out of fear. He was afraid of losing what he had. But the master condemned this action, taking the 1 talent from him and giving it to the one who had 10 talents. This parable illustrates a profound psychological law. What you fear, you attract. What you try to avoid, you invite. The only way to truly possess what you desire is to assume the feeling of already possessing it. Your miracle is not some distant possibility. It is a present reality in consciousness waiting to be claimed. The choice is yours. Will you continue to live from the assumption of lack, of waiting, of hoping that someday your desire will be fulfilled? Or will you have the courage to assume right now that what you desire is already yours? I challenge you tonight to make a fundamental shift in consciousness. Stop thinking of yourself as someone who is trying to achieve a goal, and start thinking of yourself as someone who has already achieved it. Stop seeing yourself as someone who is working toward health, and start seeing yourself as someone who is already healthy. Stop feeling yourself to be unloved, and start feeling yourself to be deeply loved. For what you assume, you become, and what you become in consciousness, you express in reality. The outer world may convince you that your miracle is impossible. People may tell you that you are being unrealistic, that you should accept your limitations and be content with less than your heart desires. But I tell you with absolute certainty, the only limitations that exist are those you accept in consciousness. Change your consciousness, and you change your world. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. This word is not some utterance spoken thousands of years ago. It is the creative power of your own wonderful human imagination operating now, in this moment. When you speak the word in consciousness by assuming the feeling of your wish fulfilled, you are invoking the same creative power that brought the universe into being. Your miracle does not require you to be special, talented, educated, wealthy, or well-connected. It requires only that you understand and apply the creative principle. That is your birthright as a human being. This principle is no respecter of persons. It works for anyone who applies it, regardless of their background.
Okay, Arthur Ingleworthington Schmidt. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Call me A.
Regardless of their background, circumstances, or past failures. I have seen individuals from all walks of life transform their reality through the proper use of imagination. I have witnessed those without formal education achieve intellectual heights beyond the rulers. I have seen the physically frail restore themselves to vibrant health. I have watched the financially destitute rise to prosperity. I have observed the lonely and rejected become surrounded by love and acceptance. All through the same principle I am sharing with you tonight. The principle that imagination creates reality. The question is not whether your miracle is possible. The question is whether you are willing to assume the consciousness required for its manifestation. Are you willing to let go of your present concept of self and assume a new concept that aligns with your desire? Are you willing to live from the end even when all sensory evidence contradicts it? Are you willing to persist in your assumption until it hardens into fact? If your answer is yes, then your miracle is not merely coming, it is here now, waiting to be recognized and claimed. For in the realm of consciousness, where all creation begins, time and space do not exist as we know them in the three-dimensional world. Your tomorrow exists now as a present possibility. By assuming feeling of that possibility as a present fact, you collapse time and bring your desire into your today. Remember the words of scripture, before they call, I will answer, and while they are yet speaking, I will hear. This is not some supernatural promise, but a statement of psychological law. The answer to your prayer, your miracle, exists before you even ask for it. It exists as a state of consciousness that you can enter through the portal of imagination. When you truly understand this principle, you will never again beg or plead for your good. You will never again feel dependent on external circumstances or other people. You will know with unshakable conviction that your consciousness is the only reality and everything else is its servant. I encourage you tonight to embark on a bold experiment. Select one desire that you've been struggling to manifest. Perhaps it's a relationship, a job opportunity, a health condition, or a financial goal. For the next 30 days, commit to living completely from the assumption that this desire is already fulfilled. Construct a scene that implies its fulfillment, and enter this scene each night before sleep. During your waking hours, conduct your inner conversations as though your desire were already a fact. Do not tell anyone about this experiment. Keep it as a sacred covenant between you and your own wonderful human imagination. At the end of 30 days, you will be amazed at how your outer world has begun to reflect your inner assumption. Your miracle is not subject to chance or luck. It is governed by law, the law of consciousness. This law states that whatever you assume to be true in consciousness must objectify itself in your reality. It cannot do otherwise, for consciousness is the one and only reality, and everything else is merely its projection. Throughout human history, those who have discovered this law have performed what the world calls miracles. But they were not miracles in the sense of violations of natural law. Natural expressions of a higher law, the law that consciousness is only reality. And when consciousness is changed, reality must change too. As we near the conclusion of our time together, I want to emphasize a critical point. Your miracle is not contingent on anything outside yourself. It does not depend on the economy, the government, other people's opinions, your past experiences, or your present circumstances. It depends solely on the state of consciousness you assume and maintain. This understanding liberates you from the tyranny of circumstances. You are no longer a victim of conditions, but a creator of conditions. You are no longer at the mercy of the world, but are the master of your world. For the world is nothing more than your consciousness objectified. I invite you tonight to embrace this liberating truth. Your miracle is already yours in consciousness. Claim it, feel it, live from it, and watch as the outer wall reshapes itself to match the pattern you have established within. Remember, the kingdom of heaven is within you. This kingdom is not a place but a state of consciousness. When you enter the state of having your desire fulfilled, you have entered the kingdom. And from that kingdom, your miracle will manifest as naturally and as inevitably as dawn follows night. Do not give up. Persist in your assumption. For your persistence is not a struggle against reality, but the assertion of a deep reality, the reality of consciousness, as the only creative power in your world. Your miracle is here now. It exists this very moment in your imagination. By the law of assumption, what exists in imagination must objectify itself in your reality. This is not theory or speculation, it is law. And when you align yourself with this law, nothing in this world can prevent the fulfillment of your desire. Go forth in the conviction that what you have assumed in consciousness is already yours in experience. Live from that conviction and watch as the miracle unfolds before your eyes, not as something new coming into your life, but as the natural expression of what you have already accepted as true, the one and only reality, the reality of consciousness. I leave you with this promise: all things whatsoever ye shall ask in prayer, believing ye shall receive. Believe not with your intellect, but with your feeling. Feel the reality of your desire now, and in the not distant future, you will hold in your hands the manifestation of that which you have already held in your consciousness. Your miracle is not coming, it has come. Recognize it, claim it, and it is yours. For you are the operant power, and your consciousness is the one and only reality. My dear friends, we are here to explore a profound truth, a divine principle that has the power to reshape your entire existence. Tonight, we shall delve into the art of acting as you are the best. Now let me be clear from the outset. When I speak of acting as you are the best, I am not referring to some external, worldly concept of superiority. No, my beloved, I'm speaking of something far more profound, far more divine. I am speaking of recognizing and embodying the God within you, the perfect. You see, the great secret of life is this: your imagination is God. It is the creative power of the universe expressing itself through you. And when you truly grasp this truth, when you fully embody it, you will understand that acting as you are the best is not an act at all. It is a revelation of your true nature.
If you're using ChatGPT but don't know how to monetize it, watch this video to the end. Alright, step 1, go to Amazon.
Nature. Let us begin by understanding the nature of reality. The world you see around you with all its seeming solidity is nothing but a shadow, a reflection of your own consciousness. It is a mirror, showing you the contents of your own mind. And just as a mirror faithfully reflects whatever stands before it, so does your world reflect your beliefs about yourself and your place in it. So, when I urge you to act as you are the best, I am inviting you to change the image in the mirror. I am calling you to revise your concept of self, to see yourself as the divine, perfect being that you truly are. But when you do this, when you hold this image firmly in your mind, the outer world has no choice but to reorganize itself to match this new inner reality. Now, some of you may be thinking, but Neville, how can I act as I'm the best when my current circumstances tell me otherwise? Ah, my dear friends, this is where faith comes in. Not faith in some external deity or power, but faith in the God within you. Faith in the power of your own imagination. You must dare to assume the feeling of being the best, even when all